actually is very glad to have, the Team Hollo to share about the Emerging Cup, because actually their project actually won the Microsoft Emerging Cup 2020, the World Champion. So actually, they have shared their experience in using the technology to build build their apps, and then in the Emerging Cup actually is a global challenge with Microsoft, and then they have they have participants from different countries. Actually, I know that Team Hollo has just got us sharing with the in the Asia Kickstart of Emerging Cup this year as well, to share with the others winners of Emerging Cup in a Asia webinar 2 days ago. So I think today they may share some more about their development and their experience in building the apps, and also how they use the technology to build our apps that can benefit the society as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes. Say, Matthew, is it time to start? Or
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's the time to start. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for Leslie bringing this really introduction about the team. So, so hi everyone again. I'm Matthew and I'm the host of today. So just to walk you briefly about like a rundown of today. So firstly, we will have Cameron and Ajit to give us a sharing. And then after that, they will try to take some questions. So if you got anything to want to know and you have anything what you want to ask, you can just drop in the chat box and I will try to read your question out to direct them to Cameron and Ajit. So without further ado, I will try to pass the time to them. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, hello everyone that's joining us today. I'm Cameron and this is Ajit, and we're here from the University of Hong Kong. We're doing our 5th year next year. For me, I'm doing it because of a science entrepreneurship minor, and Ajit here spent a whole year employed as an intern in a large technology company. And we're super excited to share today. And I think I'll give a quick rundown of what's going on at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll talk about our solution a little bit, give you guys a rough idea or a better idea of what we're doing. And then we have a couple of topics we want to share with you guys, not only just about our experience in Emerging Cup, but to do with our experience in with building a startup as students still, and see how we can do talk about it there. Yeah. Okay. So let me get started, and or does Ajit, do you want to share anything before we start?
Yeah. So thanks for watching. Yeah, and I think Cameron did a very good job of explaining what we're going to talk about today. Feel free to ask me more technology questions if you have any, if you feel the need to. I'm free to. I'm more than happy to answer more tech 100%. Questions if you're interested.
Okay. So also feel free to send your questions in through the chat box. I think Matthew or one of the team will actually help forward and compile those questions for us to talk about at the end here. We do want to be relatively frank and honest and very open with you guys, so feel free to answer any or ask any questions. All right, cool. So what we do here at Hollo is helping individuals articulate their mental health. And so what we mean by that is that we realize that a lot of students, a lot of young people weren't really sure about their experience as a young individual about their mental health. And on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of practitioners and therapists weren't having enough time to supplement all these like large size users that need to be seeing a therapist. And so what we realized was there's a real lack of any technology in this industry, and we can actually do something to help alleviate this through technology. And similar to like health tech industries or telehealth, we thought that this could be a real opportunity in mental health space, especially in Asia, where it may not be seen as quite a significant health aspect, but in the West, it's very significant. And hopefully Asia will start to change its culture over the next couple of years as well. And so what we tried to do was personalize this prevention through the use of technology. And so we wanted to make it really simple as recording, reviewing, and reacting to one's mental health. And so in the industry itself, they have very standard clinical procedure of like a questionnaire. For example, if you look up depression questionnaire online, or do I have depression, they quite often give you this standard questionnaire, which can give you a rough understanding of your sort of severity of symptoms. And so what we did was combine the use of a lot of these standard questionnaires that are used by professionals in the scene as well, and try to combine it with our technology that we're developing. And so the idea is that if we can get the individuals to understand their own condition, they be more equipped with the data to make better decisions about their own healthcare in the future. Similar to how Apple Watch may tell you a bit more about your physical well-being, we're trying to do that end of things and help you understand your mental health side of well-being. And so a quick run through about our technology. So we do a quick and easy assessment. And so we try to make it as simple and objective as possible. And the way that we did this was through recording a video at the moment. And so the video gives us multiple different data metrics that we record using a combination of facial recognition, different features analyzing the face for heart rate, for example, which is achievable. We achieved a non-contact means of measuring heart rate through video. And we also looked at measuring sleep quality through analyzing the eyes and face as well. So we're trying to find a way that we can keep things as holistic as possible in combination with a very subjective questionnaire to figure and get a better understanding using this model. And I think we're able to achieve that quite a bit. And a lot of what we're doing here is try to build models of recognizing or predicting mental health through a lot of research that's been done around the world in MIT, Harvard, and even in Hong Kong itself. And we combine that to do some sort of measurement and decision making on someone's mental health. And so the idea is that if kind of like how we can be equipped with data to make better decisions, we believe that we can do this in healthcare and mental health care specifically. And so if we have something quite goal-orientated and easy to understand for users, they can really make sure and make a clear understanding of what kind of decisions they want to make and identify key stress points in their life where they can try to improve through activities or through even seeking professional help. And so that's where we thought of the idea of, okay, if we understand these users and we help them see themselves and understand themselves, and then now we can equip them with what kind of steps they can take thereafter. And so at the moment, this is very content heavy and something that we're looking to outsource as well with professionals that are from the field themselves. And so we can highlight areas of focus, suggest what kind of activities would be better. So using AI algorithms here to suggest depending on symptom severity, and also connect them with real professionals that can actually help them with their condition. And so that's our sort of value, is that all this data that we collect can be really used with therapists and NGOs, especially when they want to streamline their admin services. The whole idea of telehealth helping with the triage process, of moving patients through the system of identification to providing service and the types of service they need. And quite often, more often than not, a lot of patients are lost in this process because they feel either overstimulated by the amount of medical attention they're getting or understimulated for the severity of their issues. And so the use of technology can really help with this process and help more people and streamline this entire flow. And so that's where we bring a lot of value to the professionals in the scene. Yeah. And so what we're doing with the technology at the moment is helping train the model, evaluate the model, and build on it even more. For instance, something we're researching is predicting mental health through audio recordings, for example. And so we're working with the HKU social science faculty on this and the Center for Suicide Prevention and Research at the moment. And we're looking to expand our partnership with other universities as well. And so, sorry, part of what a lot of people ask us is about privacy. And what we're trying to do is align ourselves with a lot of healthcare regulations in the US and Europe, for example. So data anonymity and for example, a lot of the diagnosis videos that we collect are completely anonymous. And for instance, we have a lot of end-to-end encryption. We utilize Azure services, which are used in military and other high-profile medical cases in the West as well. So we're hoping to be compliant with Hong Kong's privacy laws, EU's privacy laws, etc. especially the EU, because they're quite stringent with their privacy rules. Yeah. And so, yeah, as you guys might know, the reason that we're here today is because we won Imagine Cup. We were one of the Indians, and then we went to the global final, and we won the global final against 5 other teams from around the world. So each region had 2 teams. So we were up there from Asia with Syrinx, and we were up against some very formidable, well-experienced and students as well from their fields. And we're super excited to have won. It sometimes still doesn't feel quite real, but here we are, and we're happy to be here to share. Yeah, so part of a sustainable startup is having a good financing behind your model. And at the moment, we're still figuring this out, but we really wanted to focus on the community building aspect. And so at the moment, our business model is quite simple and not really running at the moment. We're still in the process of securing partnerships with the NGOs and doing a lot of testing with our model. And so we're looking to monetize our solution in the future as we build up a user base. And so I think I'm almost done here about our app, and a little bit more background about myself and Ajit here. So I'm doing molecular biology and biotechnology at HKU and science entrepreneurship. I have an experience of working in another startup in Hong Kong. I was also previously a professional rugby player for Hong Kong's national team for the under 20s and under 18s and U16s, etc. I've been playing rugby for a while, and that was a large part of my life previously. Ajit and I both grew up here in Hong Kong. I went to high school here at Renaissance College, and Ajit here went to YMCA in Tung Chung, but I'll leave his background to him to discuss quickly.
Yeah, so I studied in Hong Kong for since kindergarten, basically. So my entire schooling. I studied in YMCA, and now I'm in Hong Kong U with Cameron. I entered engineering. I'm doing computer science now. I used to do a minor in statistics. I decided to drop it before I finished it, but I do have a statistics background. I took a year off last year after I finished my 3rd year of university to do a 1-year internship instead, because I felt like I wanted more industry experience and industry knowledge. So I took that year off to learn about the industry, and now I think I have a good grasp of it. And now I'm starting the startup as well, of course. And Cameron and I are both going to do our year 5s.
Yeah, and that's something I really admired about Ajit, was taking that entire year to learn about the industry and best practices. And I think that's something that's very valuable that he brings to us, especially running a startup straight out of university with very limited industry experience. It can be very tough to make some harder decisions, especially about business. And I think that's what he helps out a lot with. But yeah, we both grew up here. My mom is from Hong Kong, so I speak a little bit of Cantonese, and that gets me by. Yeah. So we, and I guess the reason that we are able to achieve so much is we also have a lot of advisors behind us, standing from business to the industry specific in mental health, and also in terms of entrepreneurship and VC level. We have advice from all different sides, but we are still building this up as we continue to build a startup. But I think it's very important for us to have experience behind us, especially since we are so young, technically, in a field that's quite old. But yeah, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here, and I'm gonna just let you guys see our faces in full screen. And something we wanted to talk about with you guys was our experiences, right? So I have a list here actually. So Ajit, what I wanted to talk to you in a bit more casual and candid with you about was the challenges and lessons, or the lessons we faced in Imagine Cup. So maybe I'll spend like a minute explaining the process of Imagine Cup, and then we'll talk about some of the difficulties we faced. Okay. So Imagine Cup is a global competition run by Microsoft every year. This year was the 18th year of running Imagine Cup, and we had participants from over 200 countries and over 2,800, 28,000, yeah, 28,000 or 2,800 students. Ajit, which was it? 28,000? 28,000, I think.
Was 28,000 students worldwide,
Yeah,
but split across 3 regions. So that includes North America, and I mean the Americas,
Middle East
Africa, Europe, Middle East,
and
and
Asia.
also Asia.
Yeah. So 28,000 students worldwide, 220 countries. And how it goes is in this year, how it went was you submit your proposal and presentation deck to Microsoft, and then they inform you if you're participating in the Asian final. And so once you do get to the Asian final, then you will have a chance to pitch in front of the judges. And you spend, I think it was a 3-minute pitch in front of the judges, and then a 5-minute demo session with them. And then this year, unfortunately, because of COVID, everything was online. So we missed out on our chance to fly to Singapore for the Asian final. And then we missed out on our chance to fly to Seattle as well for the global final. So what we tried to do was try to, especially I think it was easier for us because we weren't doing VR or something like some of the other teams. It was easy for us just to demo the app in front of them on the camera and show them how it was working. Um, but yeah, the entire process was super fun. I think we got a lot of mentorship from Microsoft themselves. They had a couple of partners or staff that they usually help mentor each team. And then yeah, so I think yeah, it was 1 minute, and then in the global final after the Asian final, we had a couple of weeks leading up to the final where they allowed us to do rehearsals in front of the other teams and get advice from other mentors that were mentoring other teams. And how it went was a 1-minute pitch for the final. All 6 teams give a 1-minute pitch, and then the judges will decide for 3 teams to go forward to give a final 3-minute pitch. Um, and in that 3-minute pitch, they ask you one question and only one question afterwards, and then the judges will go and make their decision, which I think this sort of format made us feel a lot of like pressure and the gravity of like every word that we said had to like come through. And I think we were really lucky that um, as I was doing my 3-minute pitch, and the minute I finished, I realized there was something we forgot to touch on. And luckily, one of the judges asked that specific question. And so what she asked was, um, how do we what was the question, Ajit? It was like, how do we make sure that um, we're diagnosing people correctly, right?
Yeah, along those
Yeah.
lines, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
something along those lines. And then we got to talk about how the AI will specifically measure the intensity of symptoms and then grade an individual and then give appropriate care, which was something I missed in my 3-minute pitch, which they were able to pick up on. But yeah, so that's kind of the entire process of Imagine Cup. Luckily, well, part of the prize was that we get 100,000 USD cash and then $50,000 in Azure credits, and then a mentorship with Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. So we still haven't had that mentorship session with him because his schedule is quite packed, especially with COVID. I think Microsoft is still adjusting his schedule quite a bit. But yeah, so I think now we'll start talking a bit about
Yeah,
our experience in Imagine
yeah.
Cup.
Just wanted to share that I think a huge portion of why we happened to win was because of the current climate, and
Mm,
I'm very happy for this actually because mental health is a pain point that's always been there, and it's something that's always existed, but has not been as acknowledged as it should have been. And I think due to the current situation all over the world, and there's so many events going on, that people have started to take a good look at mental health. And I'm sure that the empathy that everyone feels for mental health now is very important, and um, I'm glad that we were able to win showing that people do care, and
Yeah.
showing that mental health can be a primary focus moving forward. And I hope that mental health basically gets better with this.
Yeah, and I think what Ajit was saying is pretty much just like the fact that we were able to win proves that mental health is something that should be on people's minds, and something that large companies like even like Microsoft and their professionals who are maybe a bit older but are still recognizing the significance. And I think that's really lovely that Microsoft could see that as well. And I think maybe let's talk a bit about some of the challenges that we faced. And something I guess I wanted to reiterate right now before we continue was that our sort of startup journey didn't really start and end with Imagine Cup. I had been running a quote unquote startup, but just more in the idea stages for like 2 years, almost three now, since before Imagine Cup. So what happened was I figured out that I wanted to follow a social entrepreneurship journey in career after taking a course at HKU, and it really inspired me to do some social good through business and make money doing it, and be able to have a sustainable and more successful impact than maybe compared to a small NGO project. Um, and that stuck with me through even to now, that I believe in social enterprise making more impact in society than just NGO projects, um, especially at scale. And yeah, so I guess we'll talk more specifically about our Imagine Cup experience, and I think that's what people are more interested in. Yeah. So I think what was the what was one of the most technically challenging things for you, Ajit, on your side of things? Because Ajit was actually part of our Hollow team in Imagine Cup, especially. He did a lot of work on the front end uh, uh, side of things, and I guess you want to share.
Yeah, so I okay, so because I started off before Imagine Cup as well, I was already in the team before Imagine Cup happened, and I was already aware that our end goal was always to become a startup, and Imagine
Mm,
Cup was more of a in between step, and something were not even expecting to win.
yeah,
So the idea was always just to be a startup, and the student project aspect of it was very much a just it happened to be more of in the limelight because we happened to win Imagine Cup, Asian finals, and everything. So we
yeah,
focused on the student aspect of it, but it was always supposed to be a startup. And to that end, I had developed the technologies within keeping that in mind, that we will scale and that we will become a startup. So I started off with the mobile app. We use React Native here in Hollow, and I made that choice because I'm comfortable with it. I've been using React and React Native for some time. My previous experiences both help make. Actually, pretty much all my previous experiences always involve some element of React and React Native. So I'm quite familiar with it. It's been my expertise for a while now. Um, and so I made the app. It took me about a couple of months to pick up some of the stuff I was missing and then produce it. But we made it in time for the Asian finals and everything. Um, and then and then I also decided to work on the backend. It was because the client facing one was the most important first to present, and then and simultaneously while I was making the backend, while I was making the mobile app, our other teammate at the time was working at the machine learning side of things. So he was working on the machine learning, the algorithms, um, the classification models, all that. So I was making the mobile app. He was making these models and algorithms. And then I also helped out by making the back end. So I use Python because we are a machine learning oriented company, and quite evidently, Python is the future for if you consider machine learning. So I made a backend using Python. It took me some time because I was as a like a backend developer as well previously. I'd say I'm a bit more of a front end and back end developer by experience, and I recently picked up more on the DevOps side as well. over the course of Hollo. So I already have backend experience. I know what a good backend looks like. And I was not satisfied with a lot of the Python libraries out there. So I took my time. It took me about 3 days to research. Eventually, I stumbled upon this library called Fast API. It did everything I needed to do because I wasn't really looking for a server-side rendering solution like Flask and Django are. I was looking for more of an API framework that resembled more of Express.js, or in the Java world, Spring MVC. So I was looking for something along those lines, and I stumbled upon Fast API. I think it's really good. It even has Open API compliance. Um, and and then so once I got those two going, I also set up our Devops pipeline, so that because I believe in a culture of um, Kanban over Scrum, in that I prefer to get things moving and keep on having a working product at all times. So when as and always basically uh, fail forward as fast as possible. That's generally the culture I like to promote in Hollow. So I wanted more of a DevOps cycle that reflects that and stays true to that culture. And I found and basically I picked up some Kubernetes skills. I made a Kubernetes native deployment pipeline, and it's already been running for some time now. We've been able to basically push out an API update within 6 minutes tops. And that's been happening for quite some time now. And so generally, those are our tech structures. We have a focus on failing forward quickly. And that's actually why I'm still pursuing React Native. Something else I thought about recently was whether or not we should be using React Native moving forward. I thought about it and I decided to do so because React Native offers a advantage in that you can actually push JavaScript updates over the air, and that's something that I value highly because if you were to use Swift and all those, we can't push updates quickly, and that's something that React Native offers. So a lot of thoughts and
Yeah.
considerations.
So that's actually quite technical, and I think the audience right now would appreciate that. And I kind of want to talk a bit more about that then, because you do have a large skill set in code base and development skills. So did you like, I remember we talked about this before, where you compared a lot of your skill set compared to Piyush's in the past. And maybe talk about how you came to learn code and that decision making that went into deciding and focusing in computer science, like your
Yeah.
skill set
So
and your journey.
yep, got it. I'd say so. It's Piyush is our other teammate that was focused on the machine learning side of things during our process in Imagine Cup. We have a different skill set in our basically from the very get go. Um, so he focused on data engineering related internships, whereas I was focusing more on software engineering jobs. And why I picked up my skill set in particular was more an out of necessity because uh, the jobs that were able to be found for young students that was wanted to grow was more on the front end and then a bit of back end stuff. So I started off at front end out of necessity, really. I saw the openings. I worked in a startup in Hong Kong U. There's a co-working space there, and a startup there was hiring, and I got that job, and we focused on front end, and
So
and
like
then
what?
I picked up, yeah.
Yeah. So like what would you say one of your specialty skills are in terms of technology? I remember you talked to me about Java, I think, was one of your specialties.
Yeah, so Java is something I picked up over university. Actually, yeah. So also to address the question of did I learn this over university or through
High
experience,
school.
to job work experiences? High school, I did not learn a single bit of coding except for some basic robotics, like Lego stuff. Right? It wasn't much. I didn't pursue computer science until I got to HKU. I took a programming course, and then because HKU offers a good advantage in that you don't have to choose your major until the end of first year. So I had some time to take a programming course and realize I liked programming. So I only started by year 2 officially, really, to program.
So
And
it's only been like 2 years, right?
about 2.5 years to 3 years. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And well, I worked very, like, I think I put in about like thousands of hours of my time into learning software engineering. It's been like maybe I think I calculated 7,000 hours so far into
Only?
programming in the past yeah, it's actually quite hard to put in 10,000 hours of work, which I wanted to do.
I remember you talked to me about doing a lot of hackathons in the past, and that sort of experience is really what drove you to improve your skill set for industry use, rather than just learning what you did in class, right?
Yeah. So
Additional learning is really important for you.
yeah, I think the environment in HKU promoted me to take opportunities like hackathons and startup experiences more seriously. So I did a lot of hackathons. I think well, not as much as I think my peers sometimes, but I did about 6 myself. And that was over the course of my university life, where I was also juggling my part-time job at a startup. So I was juggling my university life, my startup life, and my startup experience as an employee, and also hackathons on the weekends every now and then.
Wow.
So that's generally the course of how I had to pick up my skills. I think computer science is very, so what I learned in HKU was very theoretical. There was one course I really appreciated called software engineering, where it taught me about software engineering life cycles and Scrum and Agile. And we had a practical project. So that was where but very much conceptual. I'd say all my hard skills that I actually am able to do are all through work experiences or hackathons. And um, sometimes just out of necessity, I had to do something really quickly for a hackathon or for my job, and I had to pick it up.
That is really cool and inspiring, and I think it would have benefited me to take that course as well. But after listening to you ramble on and on to me about agile, you have to be agile and you have to follow these sort of frameworks, and I think it's really important uh, to learn about different frameworks of working and how to sort of have this day-to-day sort of management in a business or slash startup, but that's something that I actually wanted to talk to you about. This is completely like candid, and I'm just gonna have this conversation in front of everyone. Was as a sort of startup and early like foundation level, we can't really compare ourselves to the way that large corporates operate in a sense of like management and in a sense of day-to-day operations. It's very much, I think, there's nothing else at the moment in terms of running a business or a company that is really like having a startup. And I think that's really become more and more apparent to me, even as we have interns working with us, is that we talked a lot about having our own company culture, like having these like set rigid meetings and set project management timelines and things like that. And I think when we were having those conversations, it was a lot, we were kind of getting ahead of ourselves in a sense where uh, we were holding ourselves to a really high standard of like rigidity. And I think the whole point of a startup is really having more leeway, having a bit more agility in terms of being able to manage, okay, this is what we're doing this week or these couple of days. Let's try this out. Let's work on this, and then we'll see how we go from there. And being able to want to do this project management aspect, I think, comes from our sort of shared personality, where we're very much like, we want to make a decision with as much information as possible and plan things out as much as possible. And I think as a startup, can't really do that as much. And I know that affects like your technology side and like my business side, but I think that's like something we should probably work on ourselves as well, is being able to work more agile. When I say agile, I mean a different kind.
Yeah, so I think how we started was more of a um because I had a lot of experience in the industry with my previous job as well. I know how they were able to operate. So I brought that vision of what worked and what didn't work, and also my experiences with those methodologies, and where I wasn't able to share and make quick changes two
Yeah.
schedules because things weren't working out, and I needed to be able to communicate that effectively. So I shared a lot of those, but I think what happened was more of a, I helped bring the vision to light of what a healthy culture looks like, so that we have that in the back of our minds.
100%.
Yeah, we have that in the back of our minds, but I think now we are very focused on getting the product out and making it work. Sometimes
Yeah.
that means that we have to stick with something that's a bit more familiar with our day-to-day life, and that means that we can't always follow the best practices of Scrum or whatever, which is fine. I think we know what healthy culture looks like. We strive for that, but we also, as a startup, we have to have some level of familiarity so that we can continue developing quickly and not
Yeah.
worry about all the details, and know stick with what we know.
Yeah. 100%. And I think like that really comes into play is like this sort of like topic of the difference between like a student project and then startups and then having that sort of corporate job. Um, and I'm guessing a lot of the individuals from your faculty or your technology aspect is they either want to build a startup from the get-go at school, but I think a lot of them are interested in like getting that corporate job so they can learn all this best practice, kind of like you did in that year, and then come back and say, okay, now I feel a bit more ready to do a startup. What do you think are the main differences between having like a student project to a startup job versus, say, corporate?
So I actually think there's a quite a significant difference in terms of um, mindset and who we're accountable to.
Mm,
Um, so a student project generally it's like, even from the very our understanding of it, it's very low stake, and we don't
yeah,
invest as much effort into it as we should, and think of it as our like make it or break it
yeah,
type
it's
of
just
project.
fulfill another criteria for another professor, right?
Yeah, but whereas in a startup, I feel the pressure that if we don't succeed, this actually affects my livelihood as well,
100%.
moving forward. And it's a lot more stressful and a lot more also accountable, because now we are accountable in a
Hmm.
lot bigger sense, and we have to liaise with external partners and everything.
Sure.
And well, a student project, of course, can also liaise with external partners, but there is
It's
an
very
understanding.
one-off, right?
Yeah.
In a student project, it's very much one-off, and I think as a startup, it's a constant sort of development cycle. And I think that's something we are experiencing is that you can put something in front of your test customers, for example, and you shouldn't be too worried about getting negative feedback, because actually what we're looking for is that negative feedback, especially when we know whatever we're putting forward is not market tested, it's not like it's not fully developed and polished yet. Then really finding out what sort of like it's just like a bunch of A/B testing or user feedback is really making sure that we're working on that feedback, right? And I think that's something we're focusing on as founders, is making sure that we get something out there, we show this to our users who are already looking forward to our solution, technically, or should be, if we marketed it correctly, right? And so if their feedback says, okay, we want these different features, or these features aren't working well and our experience is bad here, then that's just something we can work on and improve. And I think having this close relationship with customers, and the idea in startups of failing fast and failing forward, is making sure that you make those mistakes, you make those, you face those challenges quickly and try to move through them as quick as possible. And I think that idea of like working on feedback is really important. And maybe, do you think this is something that resonates with like computer science in general or a corporate job, or how does this idea of perfection versus moving fast reflect in, say, that year's worth of experience you had?
For us, for well, my experience so far is that um, we, as a software engineering role, have seen many failures in the past
Hmm.
of our projects, and I think software engineering is quite weird in that compared to other engineering jobs, we fail a lot actually. and that's due to the old nature of management of product life cycles. And that was like waterfall. That's what the waterfall model of developing software was very prevalent. And now we're more we realize that as I think a technology industry, we need to switch to stuff like agile so that we can move forward. I think what software engineering would benefit from is and basically have better success rates would be to follow agile. Yeah. Actually, Cameron, I have a question back for you too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Is so we are managing our results and everything. We have to tell external partners that what we're doing.
For sure.
So do you find like the KPI process we use as beneficial, or how do you think about it actually?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, at the moment, at our literal like current stage of development, I think KPIs and OKRs or whatever are really good to have in mind. So if you educate yourself about them, what they mean and what they mean to investors or partners, then it's going to be a very helpful foundation for you moving forward. But really, at the stage that we're at, which by the way, for everyone here, we're still quite early on. We have a prototype working, and we're busy on publishing to the different like Play Store, Apple stores, and we're initializing a lot of our first initial tests with our NGO partners. So I think in terms of more, because of the nature of our business is a B2B, right? So a lot of businesses that are operating do want to see some form of results or some form of evaluation. And I think that's really important to at least try to set up initial channels for measuring your sort of success and your sort of progress. And I think it can be really useful for you to see as you continue to grow. But in terms of working with investors, for instance, they are very heavily KPI focused. And I think that this is mostly because investors are looking for a couple of things. They're looking at your first and foremost, the character of the founders. Do they have what it takes? Do they have the certain qualities of what a founder is, and how they manage a team or how they operate with each other, and in terms of what kind of competitive edge they have. But in terms of like a business side of things, they do want to see those sort of numbers, and because in the end it is their money and they want to see that return. So you have to show them through those, like either it's a proxy number or a real like, here's my month-on-month growth, here's my burn rate that I have, here's the churn of my users, for example. These sort of things are really important to investors to show them, or at least like tip that scale so that they do, they are interested, and then once they are interested, they want to see your progress. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah. And I also wanted to ask if how you think about me as a team member. So how we work together, and with like and why how you chose to work with me basically.
Sure. Yeah, so that was a while ago. I think we've been working together for almost 11 months now. It's almost a year. Yeah, so when I initially reached out to Ajit, it was through a mutual friend. I told my friend, I want someone that's in computer science, has a background in data analytics or statistics or something. And so he was like, okay, I know a guy, and I'm assuming he was the first guy that's off the top of his head. So I met with Ajit for a dinner, and I wanted to have a judge of character and see whether or not he's interested in building up a project. And at the time, it was a very different product model. It was basically like an online booking system for therapists, which is very overdone in the industry at the moment. And so back then, I wanted to really figure out what kind of qualities he had as a person. So something I focused on was his drive to do things outside of academics, his passions that are beyond just computer science, and really see what kind of person he is behind his professional career. And I think for me personally, the type of person I like to work with is someone that's may not be happy with where they are in terms of their skill set, may not be happy where they are in terms of their career, but are trying to take steps to move forward and improve themselves. And that sort of self-betterment aspect to it is something I really looked for in a partner. And so I think when it comes down to it, it's very easy for you to trust people in terms of their in terms of who they are, what their purpose of joining you is, and I think that's something that we've learned to learn as well, is really understand the key motivation behind a person to join a startup, join a quote unquote project. It's really important, and I think it's fair to say that we've had our fair share of like fallouts with different people, but it's really important to make sure that everyone is accounted for in terms of like trying to protect yourselves as a startup. I think is really important, but having a level of trust is also important. And I think that's something we've tried to do very well despite our experiences, is try to trust, whether it's new employees or new partners or so on. It's very important to believe in people. And I think that's a large role of a founder, is to believe in his partners, believe in whoever he's working with, uh, to believe in your startup and improve your startup for the better of the future, like better future of the company, rather than self-gain or monetary gain. I think that's why I like focusing on impact investors or impact focused individuals, is that they see the bigger picture. And I think that's very important.
And if I may also share why I like working with Cameron. Yeah,
Sharing
so
session.
in my side of things, I think Cameron is well, he's been working on this for a year, even before I joined, a year or two before I joined as well, and that shows that he was way more committed to the idea than the average person would be, and he's been trying it out and getting experience and has connections with the relevant people, and that's and he is willing to take up the business side, and also like he's consistently shown me that he's willing to help me pick up the parts where I can't handle, because obviously I have my difficulties, and Cameron is more than willing to help me out with what I can't help with, and I think likewise I try to do the same for him as well. Yeah, and actually, yeah. So right now, Cameron is sharing something we found very relevant to us right now. Is this chart about like all the relevant personality traits and how to pick a collaborator. I think Cameron and I actually fall right within your professional soulmate. I think we have similar values, but we have a completely different skill set. He's from a science and biotechnology and entrepreneurship background. I'm from a computer science and statistics background. I rely on him. Obviously, I like Cameron as a person. We chat a lot as friends as well. We are basically very good friends as well. Yeah. So I think we basically fall squarely into your professional soulmate.
Yeah.
And that works. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think actually we can start taking a couple of questions. I realize we a little short on time now, so I wanted to make sure that we did respond to a couple of the audience's questions here.
Yes.
So Matthew, if you could help me like paste them into the Zoom chat or WhatsApp it to me, and I'll start. We'll start answering a couple of them here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thank you, Cameron, and also Ajit, for your wonderful sharing. I feel I have learned a lot from you, especially like when the point that you talk about agility and also like how to choose a right members of the team. I think that's probably very important for like all the university student or even people who want to start their start career. So I think like you, the thing that you just said, I think I've been covering quite a lot of the question, like regarding like the management part. I think regarding the how do you learn the skills, I think these are the things that you have covered. And I think we got a question from Dr. Ray just now. So yeah, so what his question is about is that some of the speaker may not have the prior coding experience before their university life. So so like if they are like much younger, like if they're in primary school, secondary school, so what would be advice to them for learn these kind of things so that they can prepare for their future?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one. So actually, I've had a lot of people reach out to me in the past couple of months, even on how to learn coding, and I've basically been selling something similar the entire time. It's I personally recommend something similar to what I did, but also in a more focused way. Um, but I think that right now the most obvious example would be to do web development as a very high impact and very visible way of learning, because you can make a website and you can see it being produced instantly, and that's very very good for beginner programmers. I think that confidence boost is very nice. But then I also um well, okay, actually there's one reference I want to share. There is this open source university on computer science on GitHub. There's I'm actually look it up. It's called OSSU computer science. There's an entire university curriculum that can be open source, but basically can be learned
For sure.
without any money really.
Yeah,
That's
so
something
there
I
are
recommend.
there are a lot of online resources and learning material to learn about code, from Java to web development, etc. And I think it can be the internet's really useful in that sense, where computer science is quite easily accessible. There's a lot of online courses that I think even Ajit still takes when he wants to learn about new topics. Um, and I think it's about taking that initiative and first steps, trying to develop your own projects. So say for instance, you decide you want to learn a new skill. I think a very good way is to orientate learning a new skill and produce a project using that skill to really solidify that knowledge that you've learned. And I think having accumulation of these different little projects over time can really build your skill set into something really powerful, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I think we also got another question about like, so some students are preparing for their junior emerging cup in the K-12 sector. So would you have any advice or winning tips for them?
Focus on the idea. That's
Yeah.
my biggest takeaway from Imagine Cup, winning Imagine Cup. Something we noticed is actually that even though there is a technology competition, they looked at the
Very,
idea a lot and the
very
impact
vision
that it had.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from our experience and sharing from Imagine Cup, I think they only ever asked to see the code once, which either was because of the online aspect or was because of just the format that they usually follow, is that they're really interested in to see how you can sell your idea to them, the impact that your idea has, and really focused on um, who you are as a team, why is your idea relevant to the problem that you're solving, and how well do you really solve the problem innovatively. And so I think if you're able to sell them on the fact that you're a credible team, that you have a strong background and you really understand the problem, and they'll be more keen to listening to how you solve their issue. So if you want to, thank you. If you want to say, for instance, for us, when we pitched to them, it was very much pitching them, even if we didn't have a complete prototype yet, our solution wasn't even finished when we were pitching to them. How did we persuade them that we actually have what it takes to finish the solution and bring it to the market? And so really focus on the vision that you want to sell, how much it improves the beneficiaries' quality of life or whatever you're improving, and show them that you are the people that can pull it off. And I think that's really how you get in with the judges and show them that you have the potential.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I saw that ACMI congratulated me and was saying, "Nice to meet you again. Nice to meet you from Global Legal Hackathon." So I just wanted to say, yeah, I really appreciate the experience at Global Legal Hackathon. It was where I got to go to New York City and pitch at the global finals. It was a very nice experience. Thank you, ACMI.
I think another question that we had before was from Grayson. I'm not sure if he's still here. The question was, do you code review often if you are not a solo developer? I think that's very targeted to you.
Yeah. So I am very used to doing code reviews from my previous experiences. I always have done it, but right now, due to again being a solo developer, I don't do code reviews, but I do tend to refactor my code once a month or so, and I always update my libraries. Sometimes GitHub tells me that there's going to be there's a security problem, I have to update my code versions, or otherwise I just find that there are updates and I update frequently. So I do refactoring, I do that, but code review wise, I'm getting there. I'm a huge proponent for code review and peer programming, but because of my more solo developer status, right now it's on hold.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
I
was
think.
muted.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we also got another question from Dr. Ray as well. So he's asking if Microsoft offer you guys a position today, so would you take it or you will continue with your startup journey?
Thank you. So this is actually something we thought might happen because this happened to some of the previous winners or even finalists in the past. And I guess I'll give my take on it. So what I imagined if if Microsoft offered us a job after this was I'd probably turn it down still. Given that I'm already quite invested in my own startup journey, I've been pretty solidified that I want to follow this as a career path. I probably still want to pursue my startup and bring the impact and be my own boss and be able to build something because I've already built it up so far. And it's kind of like my baby, and I want my baby to continue growing. I think Ajit might have a different perspective.
Actually, no, similar. I'd also turn it down. And I think now I realize I'm more of a social entrepreneur at heart as well, and I would be a basically social entrepreneur. Really, I'd go on to find more companies like this. But I would appreciate the learning I could do from seniors in
100%.
Microsoft. That's something I would regret not having
Yeah.
any more of. But I think that's why I'm trying to still seek more technology mentors to help me out. But and I still refer to a lot of books. I'm very big on reading and learning more as every day.
Yeah.
But I also know that a lot of these technologies I'm thinking of for the purpose of social entrepreneurs, social enterprises, I am thinking more of it now because I'm a social entrepreneur, and it's more relevant to what I want to do in the end, and I'm actively working on those relevant skill sets. So I would probably turn it down and still work on HoLo.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking as well, was that there's probably a lot of things I could take away from working with Microsoft, and a lot of industry experience I would gain. But personally, for the stage that we're at in terms of a startup existing before Imagine Cup and continuing to exist after, it would make more sense for us to continue now. But in the future, if we exit a startup and we're looking for a more like consistent job, then definitely would take Microsoft's offer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today. And I think like the answer is brilliant, because I still see like there are lots of perseverance from you two to like carry on and try to make the journey. So yeah, so I hope that like every one of you and also enjoy the time today. So I think we are right in time now. So just one last question. So I think if the audience would like to connect with you like after the session, so would they be able to like contact you by LinkedIn or any other things that they could try to contact you?
Yep. Feel free to reach out to our LinkedIn, just Cameron Van Breda or Ajit Krishna Namakkal Raghavendran. And then it's quite a long name.
The link is in the YouTube description.
Yeah, link is in the YouTube description. Feel free to reach us there. Always open to hearing from students, from professionals, any talent from around the world. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today. So I think this is the end of our session. So thank you very much for joining,
Awesome.
and hope to see you next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks for having us.
Brilliant, really wonderful sharing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dr. Ray.